Today's video is on 5 giant salamander sightings.
Number 5. Florida's Reticulated Sirens. For decades, there had been rumors of a strange creature lurking in the waters of Florida and Alabama. Said to be the length of a person's arm and with glimmering gray skin, scientists announced in 2018 that they had finally discovered it to be a species of giant salamander. Called the reticulated siren, they can grow up to 2 feet in length and are completely aquatic. Unusually for salamander species, they don't have any hind legs, so were initially thought to be a type of eel, and they also lack eyelids, and they have horny beaks instead of teeth. It took 5 years of searching to find enough specimens to be able to officially identify this species, and it was one of the largest new animals to be described in the US for 100 years. Now, researchers have turned their focus to understanding how many there may be, and whether there are other species still awaiting discovery. Number 4. Japanese giant salamander, Honolulu. Giant salamanders, which are endemic to Japan, are considered to be a national treasure there. While their behavior has been meticulously studied in their natural habitats, some specimens have been given to zoos around the world. And in 2018, researchers at Honolulu's zoo witnessed a behavior never before seen outside their country of origin. They have 2 salamanders as a part of conservation program, and on the morning of September 29th, the female was seen laying her eggs, known as Hanzaki eggs, before the male began to fertilize them. The species can grow up to 5 feet long and are the second largest type of salamander in the world. They are, though, becoming more and more endangered, and while specimens have been gifted to 4 other zoos in the US along with the other zoos worldwide, this is the first breeding ever known to take place beyond Japan. It's hoped that researchers can learn more about why these salamanders in particular felt the conditions were right, so they can be replicated elsewhere to try and help save the species. Number 3. Japanese giant salamander, Kyoto, Japan. In 2014, residents of Kyoto in Japan were in for a surprise when a giant salamander took a stroll alongside the Kamagawa River. Normally nocturnal creatures that like to remain entirely within the cool water, sightings of them in public like this are incredibly rare, so it caused alarm among locals. The police received a number of calls about a monster walking through town and arrived on scene to protect it until it returned to the river. After hearing about the sighting, people came from all around to see it and take photographs. But luckily, the salamander remained unfazed by all the attention. It was able to return to the water without becoming scared. If it had felt the need to protect itself, it would have begun to release a milky-looking substance that smells similar to Japanese pepper, which is why the salamanders are also known in Japan as the giant pepperfish. The species can live up to 80 years in the wild, and because they have no gills, have to live in free-flowing water to ensure enough oxygen passes by the large skin folds on their necks for them to absorb. The Kamagawa River is perfect for this, so it's unclear why this salamander decided to take such a risk by walking onto land during the day. With increasing threats to their habitat from human activity, it's possible this will become a more common sight. Number 2. Chinese giant salamander, Coventry, UK. Chinese giant salamanders are the largest amphibious creatures in the world, but they are regularly hunted in China for food and are illegally exported for use as pets or in medicine. The problem has gotten so bad that very few remain in the wild, and those that are found are often taken to breeding farms to satisfy the demand for their flesh as a delicacy. Unsanctioned international transport of the creatures is strictly prohibited, but this doesn't stop some from trying to smuggle them through customs. In 2016, Border Force officers at Coventry Airport in the UK made a startling discovery when they unpacked a suspicious-looking cereal box and found 5 of the creatures inside. Sadly, one of them had already died after the terrible treatment, but the other 4 were just about okay. They were immediately sent to London Zoo to be looked after and went on to make a full recovery. 3 years later, one of them, called Professor Lu, which means dragon keepers in Chinese, was moved to the newly refurbished reptile house at the zoo, and another is planned to join him as a mate with the hope that they will one day reproduce. The animals are highly territorial and will only accept members of the other sex within their environment, so the plan is for the other salamanders to be passed on to another zoo. These are the only Chinese giant salamanders on display in the UK, and the zoo is trying to use them as a way to put a spotlight on the way the species are treated, how unusual they are, and why it's important that steps are taken to protect them in their home country. They are highly endangered, and it may not be long before they are gone for good. Number 1. Chinese giant salamander, Chongqing China. Sightings of Chinese giant salamanders in the wild are now incredibly rare. While the species can grow up to 6 feet long and weigh as much as 130 pounds, those that are found often haven't had the chance to grow to this size because of the problem with hunting and poaching. When bred on farms, they can often reach these larger sizes and can live up to 50 years, and it's feared that within our lifetimes, the only places where these Chinese giant salamanders can be seen are these inhumane facilities. Recently, though, a discovery gave hope to conservationists working to protect the salamanders. During an expedition into a remote cave in the Chongqing municipality of southwest China, researchers discovered one of the creatures, and it was huge. It measured 4 feet and 7 inches long and weighed 114 pounds. But most astonishingly of all was that it was estimated to be over 200 years old. Rather than leaving the salamander in the cave, it was decided to remove it and take it to a nearby animal care facility. This was a conscientious decision, but welfare experts argued that considering that there had been 80% decline in population numbers over the past 50 years, this was the best way to protect it. The cave's exact location has remained a secret though, just in case there are other salamanders still living and breeding there. It might seem unbelievable that such steps have been taken, but the salamander's popularity as a delicacy has increased substantially in the recent years. In the city of Zhangjiajie, for example, there's a 3-day festival held every year to raise awareness on how beneficial the amphibians can be, with chefs competing in cook-offs and practitioners of traditional medicine showing the different products and how they can be used. Honorable mentions. Hellbender, Tennessee. In July of 2019, officials from the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency shared a picture of a salamander that had been spotted near the Hiawassee River. It's known as a hellbender and is the largest salamander species found in the US and the 3rd largest in the world. They can grow up to 29 inches long and weigh up to 6 pounds. They are often mistaken for mud puppies because of their similar appearance, but mud puppies have external gills, while hellbender salamanders don't. A number of legends speak to the hellbenders and their poisonous bite, but they're actually harmless to humans. They feed on small crayfish and fish, but like other species, their numbers are in significant decline. This is mainly due to human activity, such as construction of dams, the destruction of their habitats, and the hunting of them for sport, for research, to keep as pets, and for scientific purposes. Their population has declined by 75% since the 1980s, and there are now thought to be only around 590 in the wild. Sightings are therefore quite rare, especially as this species is nocturnal and spends most of its life in the water. Chinese giant salamander, Huan City, China. In 2015, park ranger Xiao Pan was checking on the local park near Huan City when he decided to take a swim in the nearby river. As he got into the water, he noticed something glistening in the water. He thought it was a trick of the light, but then he realized that he was looking at a giant Chinese salamander. He rushed back to his cabin to get a net and returned to capture the animal. It was 2.7 feet long and is thought to have definitely been a wild one because there are no breeders nearby. Worried that the meat-eating giant would be found by someone else and potentially end up in a restaurant, Pan decided to take it to a local zoo where they could care for it and keep it safe. The protected species are so rare in the wild that it's unlikely you'd ever see one like this. But if you do, it's best to stay clear of their bite and their toxic skin and report its location to the authorities as soon as possible.
I hope you all enjoyed today's video, narrated by Zach this time. Be sure to subscribe for more and check out some of our recent uploads.